It is Wednesday, and that means it's time for Wednesday with Wilson. Brian Wilson, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. A little cold in the studio here this morning.
You gonna be okay, Brian?
Yeah, I'll suffer through for you, Dan.
Speaking of suffering, Ilhan Omar has been, I'm going to put this in air quotes, attacked. President Trump actually is now quoted as saying that this attack on Ilhan Omar probably was a fake because Ilhan Omar herself is a fake. I'm playing the attack, and just to get people caught up, Ilhan Omar last night, a guy stood up in one of her little town halls and sprayed her with a syringe, a couple of squirts, if you will, and then the guy was, tackled to the ground. Most people that have seen the video that are on our side of the aisle says this is a fake, a fraud, another Juicy Smoulier, if you will. And, I believe, and I watched the video this morning, I think that this whole thing is a fake, that this is all just some sort of a Democrat narrative where, she's a victim of a hate crime. You can't possibly investigate her for fraud. I mean, that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, well, there's a certain amount of, suspicion that would be appropriate in a situation like this. I mean, I've looked at the attack, and what it looks like to me is that, she seemed... after the attack, the logical thing to do would be to go to a hospital and be checked out if you truly were concerned.
Exactly.
But she didn't seem to want to do that. And, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where a politician gets sprayed with something. You don't know what that was. You don't know whether you're at risk. You don't know whether the people in the room are at risk. You don't know what that... You've got to go get checked out. And she just wouldn't hear anything of it, which, I don't know. I'm suspicious. I'll withhold judgment for the moment, but, I think it's, given where she is right now, that everybody, saying that, she needs to be investigated, she probably needed to change that narrative.
Yeah, and I think that is something that the Democrats, obviously, they're trying to change that narrative. Now, whether or not they'll be successful is anyone's guess. I want to play a piece of audio from Donald Trump now, and this is the president on Will Cain's show. This was yesterday, just going to stay in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, where he was talking about a number of different things, including whether or not he was retreating from Minnesota, which is what some people are saying with Tom Homan going in, Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino are leaving or have left Minnesota.
He has posted that you have retreated in Minnesota, Governor Gavin Newsom, and he is encouraging people to keep the pressure up.
See, I haven't heard that at all because it's just the opposite. I was called by the governor yesterday. I was called by the mayor yesterday. How do we do something? Please, how do we do something? I think it's bad for them. I don't think it's bad for us. I think it's bad for them.
Yeah, you'll have to see what Governor
But it's not
Newsom
a question
posted.
of retreat. We want safe cities. Whether it's if we took a lot of the crime out of there. We want safe cities and states. We want a safe country. And again, we just got a report done by Democrats that the country is the safest ever recorded.
So I guess the question is, Brian, some people are calling it a retreat. Other people are saying ultimately he's getting what he wants, which is state cooperation.
Well, he is getting some cooperation. I mean, look, I would say that we haven't lost the battle there in Minnesota, but we are losing it. It's not over yet. They sent in Tom Homan, and Tom Homan, remember, he did the same thing he's doing now during the Obama years. And so he has some contact and some cachet, perhaps, with Democrats, and maybe they're just hoping he can go down there and lower the temperature. The temperature has been lowering, the real temperature in Minnesota is pretty low, but the political temperature has come down a notch, and I think that's fine. But what you have here really, this just frustrates me. You have basically anarchists in an unholy alliance with liberal white women who have basically decided that they're going to violate the law and insert themselves into police actions. I noticed with great interest that the appeals court in that area has backed up ICE and said, yes, ICE has the right to arrest, detain, and pepper spray people who insert themselves in those situations. That overturned a district court judge ruling in Minnesota. And so, we are correct in what we are doing. And yes, I'm sorry that Renee Good and Alex Preddy, got shot. I really am. But they inserted themselves into a chaotic situation that they should not have been doing. You know, your right to protest only goes so far. I mean, there are limitations on the right to protest and your First Amendment rights. You cannot, for example, insert yourself between the police during a police action. That is legitimate, as defined by the Court of Appeals just yesterday. So, look, I'm also frustrated by the fact that we as a nation voted in a made a pretty definitive statement that we wanted something done about immigration.
Yep.
And the first moment it gets a little rough and rocky, people, including some Republicans on the Hill, have decided, well, this is really, really, really bad. I'll tell you what's bad is that people don't like to see conflict on their TVs. They just don't. They especially don't like to see women being, pushed and pushed back and arrested and wrestled to the ground as they have in some cases. I think ICE is correct in doing that, but people just don't like to see the optics are not good, and the anarchists know it. So, what happened in America? We went all wobbly when things get a little tough. This is what we voted for. And by the way, what's happening across this country is that violent crime is being driven down in a dramatic fashion, 20% lower than it was. We haven't seen this in many, many years. And the reason is we're taking bad people off the street, and it's having an impact. So make up your mind, America. Did you want immigration reform or not?
Right. And that's a great point, Brian. Coming up, you've got a lot of these folks on the left, and now a couple of Republicans are saying that Kristi Noem must resign or be fired. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but she is throwing Stephen Miller right under the bus. And we're going to talk a little bit about palace intrigue, if we can, coming back, and a true case of Trump derangement syndrome as well. So Brian, have a lot of these folks, basically everybody on the left and some on the right, saying that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or be fired. There is a big article today in the Daily Mail that is saying that she's under fire because of comments that were made, partly because of some comments that were made after the shooting of Alex Preddy, where she said that Preddy was brandishing a weapon, and clearly he was not, and also that he was out to do maximum damage. And so she is saying that her information came from Stephen Miller. And so now we've got some palace intrigue where you've got Kristi Noem going against Stephen Miller, and Stephen Miller is actually sort of backpedaling on some of the things that he has said in the past about that situation. So it does look like there's some, as I said, some palace intrigue going on between Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, and I'm wondering if the reason why President Trump is now willing to maybe more negotiate and have more conversations with Tim Walz and the other folks, Jacob Fry there in Minnesota, is because his team was wrong on the messaging and the narrative following the death of Alex Preddy.
Well, who knows exactly where that information came from, but it was a bad moment for the administration. Let's just be honest about it. They mischaracterized what happened there. And so, I think that there's something going on. I mean, what I'm reading is that Noem and Homan had really clashed. And I was very surprised about that because Homan's, he gets things done. He's pretty effective.
Tom Homan is a legend.
Yeah. I mean, he really is. He's really amazing. And he has the respect, by the way, of the officers on the ground and perhaps a little cachet with Democrats. So maybe he can go down and soothe the feathers. But I think the reason that Trump decided to back down is he looked at the public opinion polls and he's noticing that it's not going so well in that regard. And he's got to start thinking about the midterm elections. And I think pulling back a little bit here and de-escalating slightly might be not only might bring a little calm to the situation, but also probably it is the smart political thing to do.
I want to play a piece of audio and video for you. This is a guy by the name of Elliot Foran. He is a Democrat candidate for Ohio Attorney General.
Okay.
I want you to listen very closely.
Hi, this is Elliot Forehand, candidate for Ohio Attorney General. I want to tell you what I mean when I say that I am going to kill Donald Trump.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I'm going to obtain a conviction rendered by a jury of his peers at a standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, based on evidence presented at a trial conducted in accordance with the requirements of due process, resulting in a sentence duly executed of capital punishment. That is what I mean when I say that I'm going to kill.
Clean up on aisle one.
Yeah, boy, I gotta tell you.
He must have said that and then realized, I'm, now the Secret Service is going to be calling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But, we talk about lowering the temperature.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the Democrats actually want to lower the temperature.
Well, it's working for them.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just talk about just the raw politics of it. It's working for them. I mean, as I say, they are winning in Minnesota. The battle is not over, but they've done well there, and accomplishing what they set out to do, which is to stop ICE, to demonize Donald Trump, and I don't know. I mean, the more outrageous they get. I mean, I'll give you an example of the stupidity of it all. We very much could have a partial government shutdown. Now, the House has passed all of its bills, and there are 5 bills that have to be passed in the Senate to avoid the shutdown. I mean, surprise, surprise, we're going about this through something called regular order, which is something we haven't done in a while. No omnibus spending bill. We've actually done the hard work of passing these budget bills. And I look at that and I say, the Democrats say, let's shut it down because we don't want to fund DHS. Well, here's a little bit of information. The ICE and Border Patrol are funded through 2029.
Yeah,
that was in the big, bad, beautiful bill, and they've got their funding. So shutting down the government, if you shut down DHS, we don't want to fund DHS. Well, the parts of DHS that would not be funded are things like, I don't know, FEMA. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that in the middle of a record ice storm? Where you need to, supply the FEMA, do the thing that FEMA does for people. Do you want to shut down the airports in this country, the TSA? Because that's what will be shut down. So, I mean, they're just crazed right now. And I don't think they have fully thought through the ramifications of a partial government shutdown.
Well, they lost on the last shutdown, right?
Yeah, they did.
Clearly, people understood this was a Democrat thing. And so, I mean, there's part of me, clearly, I don't want to see FEMA funding cut. But there's part of me, though, that is thinking, go ahead, make our day and shut it down.
Yeah, it would be, this would, again, be pinned on the Democrats. And I think cooler heads will prevail. But, I mean, I'm not really sure because the logic seems to be going out the window with Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday, Brian, I played audio of a woman named Melinda. She was a nurse at VCU out there in Virginia. And she was talking about, and I don't have the audio handy, but she was talking about different ways to go after ICE. And she talked about putting, some sort of a medication, if you will, into a syringe and sticking the ICE agents to give them to make them paralyzed, or putting poison ivy, a bunch of poison ivy plants in water, and then squirting ICE agents and going out on a date with an ICE agent or a Border Patrol and slipping Miralax into their drink. I mean, these are the kind. This was a nurse at VCU. Now, the good news, Brian, is that she got fired. That is the update to the story from yesterday. She's been fired. But, I mean, you were spot on when you said, I don't think they're really thinking these things through, whether it's the politicians or just, Democrats out there that are part of that party.
It is just this TDS. I mean, it is real, and people have out of bounds sort of reactions to Donald Trump, and it brings out the worst in a certain part of our society. I'm telling you, this nation right now is as divided as it's ever been, and it's very surprising to me given the outcome of the last election. It really is.
Well, I guess we'll have to see where this whole thing plays out. I think you're right. We'll have the debate as a party as far as whether or not Donald Trump retreated or this was, Trump playing 3D chess and all that other kind of stuff. But, we'll save all that for another day. Brian, stay warm. Appreciate you joining us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
615-737-9986. Hey, Joan, the phone's ringing.
Yeah, who can it be?
One guy... couple of people have called. One guy wanted to give some intel on the back roads, and I could tell you from my experience, the back roads are tough this morning. And my driveway was actually really tough getting out this morning as well. I was not easy, and I thought that it would be a little bit easier. So I had to, 3:45 this morning, I'm out there with the snow shovel, and I'm picking, ice out of my driveway, and I threw some salt down, and I was able to get out of my driveway. But people are still having a really hard time. And, off and on throughout the morning, we've been talking about what a lot of people are talking about, which is Nashville's electric company. And the accusation on social media has been, and then Fox 17 picked up the story as well, is Nashville's electric company trying to save money by refusing help from unionized workers. Now, I saw this yesterday afternoon when it came out. A guy named Nick Smith posted this. This is what he posted. He says, there are about 18,000 of us that just got released from different utilities. We are union, and NES, they are cheap and will not pay our union rates. So they let the customers suffer, this guy says. And he says to blast NES, 275 linemen is a joke. Duke Energy has 18,000 linemen alone. Well, and I will point out, Duke Energy is multiple states, and NES, of course, is Nashville Electric. So Fox 17, though, picked up the story from there because, if there are legit questions that need to be answered, well, then they need to be answered, and this is something that does need to be discussed. This is what Fox 17 reported.
Nashville Electric Service is now being called out for allegedly refusing help from available lineman crews to restore power. I spoke to one IBEW union member who asked to remain unnamed.
I've had a lot of people reach out trying to come to Nashville to help restore power. They keep getting the same answer that NES is full. They don't need help. I just don't think they want to pay the union rates.
So, listen, I know nothing about power companies or unions, but from what I understand, there are different unions at play here, and you also have some non-union employees as well. But the bottom line is a lot of people are still without power, and let's see. It looks like Rick is one of them in Old Hickory. Rick, thanks for calling in. Go ahead.
Hey, Dan, I just wanted to share with you. I listened to the gentleman earlier. I was getting out of my car. My wife's in the hotel. We stayed in the house up until last night. The night before, it's 6 degrees. We're in Old Hickory. I know you mentioned everybody, and you can't get everybody. It's 40 of us out here out of power on South Trace Boulevard. Our street makes a loop, a half-mile loop. They keep energizing it. They've sent us, NES, speaking of, they sent us 4 texts from Sunday afternoon. We went out of power Sunday morning at 6 a.m. and saying we have power. We don't have power, then all of us have to get together, text, and call one another and resubmit an outage. And I finally spoke to a lady yesterday at NES and explained my situation. I said, I praise the linemen. My cousins retired from there, 3 of them, and that's a hard job. Brent Baker's a whole different story. Look, Monday afternoon, MT, Middle Tennessee Electric, had 467 boots on the ground. How many did Nashville have on the ground? 300. That tells you everything you need to know, Dan. It's not a lot of discussion. They're doing an awesome job. I praise our NES guys.
Yeah.
But the management could have stepped up a little bit. And the gentleman called from the country, not to interrupt you, the gentleman called from the country. I just unloaded a freezer, a refrigerator in the garage because I keep stuff stocked up, and a refrigerator in the house. Won't happen again. I'm going to get a generator this week. I probably have to go up to Bowling Green somewhere to get one, but not going to do this again.
Well, so Rick, there's a lot of disturbing things about what you said. number one is, and we reported on that story earlier, where you got a lot of folks that are saying they've receiving text messages telling them the power is back on, and they haven't. And it's like, okay, so what would worry me is that you're now off the list to get your power restored because NES believes that your power has been restored. So that's number one.
And we go to the bottom. We go to the bottom because we're just 40 people now, too. That's the sad part.
Oh, Lord. And did they give you an indication as to how long this is going to take?
When I called the lady called me back. I was 77-minute wait. So, you put your number in to call you back. And bless her heart, she called me. And we talked. She said, I don't have a time frame yet for when they'll get back to you. I said, okay. I said, I appreciate all you're doing. And I do, as I said earlier, the linemen are doing an awesome job.
Well, I had
management could have stepped up.
Yeah, I don't know, Rick, if you heard, and good luck to you, my friend. We had a lineman for NES call in the 5 o'clock hour, and he was talking about how they are working 16-hour shifts, and so there's like 16 on, 8 off. And it's not the lineman that is the issue, clearly. It's if there is an accusation, it is simply that there isn't enough of them. I've been telling you about my friend Anna, who sent this to me. She lives in Bellevue, also under NES purview, and she says that this was one of the worst hit areas in her neighborhood there, and she's got no power. AT&T phones have limited signals. Verizon, she says, if you're a Verizon customer, they seem to be okay. But people are using, backyards as refrigerators. They're cooking outside. And a lot of these people, a lot of you folks, you can't even get out of your neighborhood. Now, Chuck is on line 1, and you're calling from Goodlettsville, and you're going to talk a little bit about the back roads there in Goodlettsville?
Yeah, I called the mayor's office up there in Greenbrier. I've got a pregnant employee that works up there, that works for me, that lives up there. They're starting to run out of food. All the main roads are clear, and that's all good, but that's like saying we're ready at the ER, but there's no ambulance. They can't get an ambulance back there. She's got an elderly mother with a lot of issues. She's pregnant. They're starting to run out of food. They told me they would get somebody to get some food out there. That whole road is like that on Logan Road. I don't understand why all the main roads are clear. They need to go out and get these roads cleared, these back roads. I mean, even for the linemen and the other people to be safer and get in and out of there. I can't get back there in a four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
2 miles of people, and I got a buddy who was in Texas when they got hit with that bad storm. And what he does is he sets up, like when Duke Energy comes in, the company he works for, they go out and set up all the laundry, the living space, and the kitchens to feed those folks. Man, they were all over that. And he's from here. He still lives in Texas now, but he's still doing that for, traveling all around. Anytime somebody needs someone to set up a situation like that in a disaster, that's what they do. And he's just amazed. He's connected to these folks. He's amazed at how many people came there, and they're doing nothing here to bring people in from the outside. And he said it all has to do with money.
Yeah.
They do not want other unions. It's not about the people. So your tax dollars are not at work. That's what's going on.
Chuck, that is the accusation. And Chuck, I don't know if, and by the way, NES is denying this, of course, as they would do. And so the reality is that NES is going to deny it, but people are going to say, oh, no. They had this is the accusation, they had thousands of unionized workers that NES is accused of saying, no, we don't need your help. And the accusation is that NES said no because they didn't want to pay those union dues. And I'm here to tell you, I hope that is not the case. I hope that is not the case. By the way, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, I'm going to have Trent Scott on. You may recall him from earlier this week, Senior VP of Communications for the Tennessee Electric Cooperative. And he's going to talk a little bit about the accusations that are being made against NES and the challenges that they are facing. But to your point, Chuck, about the roads, I want to play this piece of audio for you, and just for people that are just tuning in. Governor Lee was on with Matt Murphy yesterday, and the governor to your point, you're talking about the roads. Some of these back roads, those are county roads. And so as, through business as usual, the county roads, they are the county's purview. However, Governor Lee has now signed an executive order to get TDOT out there to fix and to clear these county roads. This is Governor Lee yesterday on with Matt Murphy.
Part of the challenge right now is the county systems that are struggling to keep up with debris cleanup and whatnot. So I actually signed an executive order today that would authorize TDOT to do some work which previously could only be done by the counties, because TDOT's got the roads in good shape all over the state, and because of that we have resources to help counties with cleanup. So we were prepared, and the response has been really good. Nevertheless, there's still people without power and without heat, and it's a really tough spot, but there is a lot of work being done. I was with linemen last night, actually, at 11:30, and they're out there, been doing 18-hour shifts. They're working all night long. I was with TDOT workers today that are out there 24/7. So the teams are working. In fact, we've got linemen coming from other states or that are already here from other states, because we're the state that got hit the worst as far as the ice and the outages. So there's a full-on effort, and progress is very steady.
Very steady. Some would say slow but steady. And this is something that this accusation against NES is not going to go away. And one of the things, as we hear about all of this, and we're going to talk to Trent Scott coming up in the next hour, but one of the things is that, obviously, as everyone knows, this was a major, major storm. This was a major ice storm. One of the questions I'm going to ask Trent is that you had some of these, we have partnerships with other states and with their energy employees, the linemen and all these folks. And so we have these, cooperations with other states where if we get hit hard, then we have these power employees and these linemen that come in from other states. And I guess they were staged in North Carolina. And my question is, and maybe it's a dumb question, but okay, so why can't we actually stage them here in Tennessee, maybe centrally located, like in Nashville? Because if they're staged in North Carolina, it's going to take a long time for them to drive from North Carolina into Nashville and into Middle Tennessee, where they can start to get the power on. And so there's a lot of questions, and people are going to have a lot of questions about NES. They're going to have a lot of questions about the staging. And this is one of those things where they just need to get the power on, and then at some point we'll start to look back at all of these questions and maybe get some answers.
Yeah, and for the people still without power, we just got a tip from somebody in Murfreesboro that Camping World actually has a surplus of generators. So, Chuck, if you're still listening, don't run up to Bowling Green. Head on down to Murfreesboro at Camping World. Apparently, they had a truck that was supposed to go to Texas, and it got rerouted. So there is a literal semi-truckload of generators at the Camping World in Murfreesboro.
Wow. What's the where is that? If I may ask, do you know where?
It's right off 24 in Murfreesboro.
Right off. Look at Joan. Right off 24 in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, if you're heading on 24 eastbound, so you're heading down toward Chattanooga, it's on the right-hand side. You can't miss it. All the campers out there.
Okay, going to be a lot of cars going down to Camping World there in Murfreesboro to pick up a generator. I got to tell you that if you are a generator company, you have a lot of customers.